Hello, something from Bosli-po today. Can you tell? They sent me like a flag and this t-shirt which has got this different thing on it and some battery straps and things, and we've got a bunch of boxes with batteries in them. Everything comes nicely packaged. Inside there's foam, there's packaging, there's instructions. The batteries are individually wrapped and there's like elastic around it, and the XT60 can't come into contact with anything. That's all very good. Now I've got a bunch of various 6-cell batteries to test out, so that's what I intend to do, take some quads down. I'll just show you what I've got. This is the Bosli-po P7 version. We've got these smaller ones which you might call the race or /freestyle ones. They say they're 150C, and we've got the 1300, the 1550 and the 1700 version. 1700 is pretty big for a sort of freestyle quad, but not that big. We can certainly fit them in the modern stuff. So there's those ones, and then we've got the sort of the bigger long distance or cruiser, sort of the 7-inch batteries, and for this they are 95C, and we've got the 3300 version and the 5600 version, and I'm thinking my Chimera and my other 7-inch quad to see how those ones perform. So yeah, let's get off to the field, take my super t-shirt with me, and I probably won't take the flag because that seems a bit over the top. Let's go flying and see how these perform. Hello, welcome to the field. It's a glorious day, but I'm sat under the shade of this tree so I don't get burnt. I'm in what's called the long meadow today. Long and thin field, goes down here, back up there. Reason being that in order to test out the first lot of these Bosli-po batteries, the kind of ones you'd use in more of an acro quad, I've built this 6S analog thing. Hopefully it's going to work okay, and I thought this would be handy to fly around here, kind of use the trees, go under stuff. A little bit problematic in the fact that the things you don't get in winter. Down there, for example, along the side, there are tents all the way on the other side. So if they're not awake yet, I mean it's 10:15, they're about to get woken up. Let's hope I don't get an angry mob with pitchforks. But meantime, let's get these batteries on and see how they go. I'll sort of go small to big, I think. Try and do sort of regular type freestyle things and see how they last. Well, things never run smooth, do we? I've just turned this on and we've got no OSD. Now, we did have an OSD yesterday when I checked this was all working, but we're gonna have a change of plan because I can't tell what the batteries are doing, obviously with no OSD. So we're gonna fly them on the 7-inch. This 7-inch has been set up with very big, very low kV motors. They're on 1115 kV, and I wasn't sure how they'd do, and not exactly the right conditions, well, not exactly the right quad for these batteries, but I need to do them on something just to see how it goes really. So not ideal, but let's try it and see. Let's arm it, see how it feels. Oh dear, you could hear the vibrations, couldn't you? And you can certainly see them in the picture. Doesn't actually look as bad on the DVR as it felt flying it. What we've got here is, if we stand at 20%, seems fairly smooth. Somewhere between 20% and like 50%, it goes all shaky. And there's an element, if we go towards the full throttle, it sort of smooths out a bit. But this was really annoying, and you can't fly around and have lots of sort of acro based stuff when your quad's misbehaving like this. But you know, I tried my best. I did a couple of full throttle blasts, get me up in the air a little bit. You can still see some definite shaking, even 100%. This thing actually acros okay, but not in this current tune. There's something up with the tune, or there's something up with the motors. Obviously the motors were the only things that changed, so you tend to blame those mostly. But anyway, I tried to get through it. So we're on the 1300 battery here. We've got a bit of a weird thing with the voltage. So the voltage is 21.5. I'm thinking I land 2021, it'd be fine. I just did a bit of a full throttle thing, and I noticed the battery hasn't recovered this time, and it's gone under 21 volts. Therefore we should land. And as soon as these batteries get anywhere near that 3.5 per cell, they start dropping like a stone. You can see this battery is now showing 15 volts, 14 volts. It's just going and going and going. So I just slammed it down there in the end. But note to self, try and land a bit quicker. I've gone over to the 1550 battery now, and if anything, I
think the extra weight's making it worse. The problem is that vibration comes in just at the cruising sort of throttle, about 25 to 30%. It's very annoying to fly. It makes a terrible noise, and the motors are getting pretty hot. But it's my only way of really testing out a battery. And I was trying to do some high throttle things, some acro things, some flying about things, but frankly it wasn't going that well. And once again I had it too close to this 3.5 per cell, and we started dropping like an absolute stone. Again, down 20 volts, and it's just going to keep going down and going down. I'm a little bit closer to the landing spot this time, so I haven't completely rinsed the cells for all they're worth, but it does drop so quickly, down to 19. But we got what, 5 minutes, but really about 4:30 is what we should got. And lastly, here we have the 1700, and much the same problems really. Vibration. I just want to change these motors back or do something with them. Again, I tried to bring it down so it didn't dip. So we did a little bit better on this one. It's just starting to dip into the 21 volts. And I noticed this and actually bring it down quickly. Again, 5 minutes here, but I'm going to come back to these batteries, so kind of ignore this whole thing for now. Okay, move spots. We're in the slightly bigger field. You can see it goes further out. What we don't have, as mentioned last time, is permission to fly over those fields at the moment, because there's an event happening which is going to carry on for like a month. So here and behind us, and in order to test out the bigger batteries, so we are talking the 3300 6S and the 5600 6S, I have got my 7-inch Chimera, which is set up to take bigger batteries. Now, this was not too happy last time. It still had some vibration. I've gone in, I don't know if you can see, there's little bits of tape under there. I have balanced all the props. I was going to also put on a different tune that someone else did. I thought, one thing at a time, let's try the prop balancing, and if that doesn't work, we'll go and we'll tune it differently. So yeah, let's get flying. One quick note, if you've got a prop balancer like this, then you've probably realised it's pretty hopeless for 7-inch tri-blades or even 5-inch props. So what I did, I came up with a quick design where I could mount these parts inside another part, and it now looks like this, and I can balance my 7-inch or 5-inch props okay. I'll stick the design on Thingiverse, so a link will be down below. Using a TX15 for the first time today, and the sun is up high in the sky, coming straight down on the screen, and it's readable. It's somewhat reflective, but definitely readable, which is a good thing. And off we go into the air with the Chimera. This is on walk snail, and is such a relief to look at after flying on analog, not just analog, but analog that vibrated a lot. Now, after balancing the props, I noticed this one seemed better in the goggles, but I could still hear this little warbling noise. I just can't put my finger on what this is. So we're flying around, and we're generally averaging a speed between about 60 and 70 kilometers an hour. It's reasonably fast, this, even in cruise mode. And my benchmark here is I fly a 4000 milliamp hour light ion pack, and I get about 10 minutes out of that, but I only fly it down to like 3.3 volts. I could go much lower on light ion, but generally speaking, it's like, oh, I've flown for 10 minutes, that seems fine to me. But basically, I was flying this thing all around, trying to get up high, trying to do some speed things, varying the throttle. But this is more of a cruisy sort of quad than, certainly it's not what I'd call an acro quad. It's supposed to be my long distance rig. The question is, do I trust it for long distance when it's still got this little warbling noise? But certainly I think the prop balancing has helped there. As you can see, we're just over 9 minutes in now, and we've still got 3.65 volts per cell, which I'm thinking, well, this is doing very well. Obviously, the only thing about light ion packs is you have to be very careful about how many amps you put into them. Lipo's a little bit more forgiving there, so you can have a bit more of a mixed flight, and it's not going to really, whack the cells. They're going to recover back even if you put a couple of 100% things into it. So I was thinking, wow, this is going to go beyond 10 minutes, and it did. So just over 12 minutes, I'm hitting 3.55 per cell, and I'm thinking, that's the time to bring it in, because we've seen what happens when these batteries dip below 3.5. They do not like it whatsoever at all. So for a 3300 milliamp hour 6S, This, I think, has done exceptionally well. I'm cruising, yes, but it's not like a super slow cruise. And that's certainly rivaling my light iron pack. So, yeah, 12.5 minutes. Pretty cool. So, the last battery to check out was the big 5600. Again, mounted on the Chimera. This can take anything up to about 10,000 milliamp hours. And so, I'm expecting fairly good things from it. I find that the really good thing with a really big battery is they're so different to a regular battery. When I take off on a 5-inch, you're pretty much under 4 volts pretty much straight away. But with this big battery, it can really take a little bit more hammering. So you can go around and you can do a couple of full throttle bits, you can fly relatively fast around, and you'll still be over 4 volts for a little bit longer. In this case, I'm 3 minutes in and I'm still over 4 volts. So I'm thinking, wow, if the 3.3 did a 12-minute flight, this is going to do like at least 15. And that's what I thought would happen until something went drastically wrong. I am just flying around here and all of a sudden the quad just dropped down. I managed to rescue it a bit, so we had a bit of a bounce on some flat ground. Found this guy upside down in the field, battery taking a bit of a bash. Didn't look like there's any damage, but I was trying to figure out cause of crash, and if I arm it and just try and spin up a prop, or the props, you can see what's happening to that left-right. It is not spinning, so we've got some sort of potentially broken connection there. Last time I had the original problem with the Chimera. It was down to the place where the motor wire solders onto the windings coming out, and I hope that hasn't happened with this one. I mean, it feels okay, prop's nice and tight. That motor is slightly hot. These ones are all pretty cool, so something going on with that one it doesn't seem to like. I don't seem to be having much luck with this quad in general. We've also seemed like during the crash this got chopped off, so that antenna's going to be dead now, which is a bummer. There you go. Can't really finish off the test of that, but we can certainly infer that it was going to go for a long time based on the fact that we got 12 minutes out of the 3300. Welcome back once again to the field. I'm back because I don't think these Bosli-pos really had a fair shake. We had a problem with a quad and really we didn't have much of a fly. So it's a week or two later, I can't remember when I flew them exactly, and it's supposed to be 30 degrees today in clear skies. Right now it's not, which is good because I'm not going to get burned, although it's a little bit overcast. We've got this one back. This is the one which I thought the OSD had failed. It turned out that the flight controller was completely dead, and I thought, well, that's weird. Fitted another flight controller, quite a decent one, and then that died. And I'm thinking, there's something about this ESC that may be killing flight controllers, or it's really odd set of circumstances. So I didn't decide I could trust it anymore. So on the third rebuild, I've gone back to a much older flight controller and ESC stack with the same motors. And yeah, hopefully they'll work. The only problem is it's been hovered once again, but not flown. Hopefully it'll be all right. So let's see if the analog stuff works and we can really throw it around. Was going to be in the long field, but the cows are in there right now, so I thought I'd use this one. I can always fly back there. Yeah, let's go. Okay, here we are, the 1300 battery in this untested 5-inch on a 6S. And I say it's untested, and you can tell pretty quick that it wasn't. I hovered it in the garden, everything's fine, because if you, the hover point's like 20%, everything seems fine then. It looks like we've got an issue when we go full or higher throttle with the picture. We get some flickering, the OSD disappears, and in fact it was much worse than that. What you're seeing in the DVR is much nicer than it looked in the goggles. I had sort of horizontal lines, no, vertical lines going through, so it looked like interlace but vertically, which was very weird. This is an old Runcam Swift 2 camera, and it is making the sky look a bit purple, and obviously we've got some sort of issue with the OSD. Now, before everybody shouts ground loop, it's the same wiring as the other cameras I've used that didn't have this problem, and I'm thinking it's literally just down to this camera. That said, the quad is flying absolutely fine. I'm liking the way this is flying generally. I can't remember if I put on a preset or what I did, but what I did discover is I had very big sensitivity in the center of the stick, so I haven't got any RC Expo in Betaflight, it would seem to me, which is making me fly a bit weird. But anyway, what I did, flew around, tried to do some full throttle for stuff, tried to do a bit of acro, and it seemed to go pretty well. We even did a bit of full throttle when the battery was relatively low, just to see how it would recover. So we're at 3.58 there. You can see it dump down to below safe voltage, but it seems to recover pretty quickly. At that point, we were already over 5 minutes, and really that when it comes into 3.55, that's the landing point. I went on a little bit longer here, and so ended up dipping down a bit further than I wanted. So about 5 minutes was the right time to come down on that one. So on to the 1550 now, and doing a bit of the 100%, see how long we can sustain that, see what the battery does, and see the recovery of it. All looks pretty good, and really I'm pretty happy with the way this quad is flying. It actually feels pretty nice. Getting nice smooth video out of it when the camera doesn't completely go wrong, and the VTX is holding up very well as well. I'm sort of behind some trees here, going pretty low to the ground, getting a decent reception on 200 milliwatts of power. Can't really complain about that. It's an interesting thing about the size of 6S batteries on a 5-inch quad. Not long ago it used to be that 1050s were the way to go, and that seems to have increased. Like 1300's not a problem, this 1550's not a problem, and when I fly the 1700, which I'll show you in a second, it really didn't feel any different. The hover point stays exactly the same. These are powerful quads, and they seem to be able to take a big old brick of a battery. Obviously I flew for slightly too long again, and ended up coming in a little bit lower than I would have wanted. So a comfortable 6 minutes of varying throttle would have been my comfort zone. As it was, I took it just a little bit too far down, getting like 655. And here we are on the 1700, and what you can see me doing here is just checking exactly how much throttle I need to hover, and it's really no different than the other ones. So we then go 100%, see what happens, as you do. It looks like a massive battery, but it really does fly very well. What I did with all of these is I had this sort of what I call a sustained faster lap. It's not that fast because my camera angle's not down enough, but the idea is get it onto about 40% so the OSD disappears completely, get round the tree there, and then sort of power back out and get along to the other field. Mostly about 35% really. But that is like a bit faster than you'd normally fly unless you had your camera way up. So if you're racing, you definitely want a higher angle than I've got here. I think I've only got about 25%. It's not too much. But yeah, these batteries handle it without a problem. The recovery is quite nice. Just don't get them too near that 3.5 and it should be fine. And I just had lots of fun doing my normal sort of flying, finding trees to get under, trying to find little gaps to get through, that sort of thing. Not hassling the cows at all, not that they seem to care. Yeah, had a good old fly around. I tried to be a little bit more careful about trying to get in when it got to 3.55, but there is still quite a big drop from that. But I'm over 7 minutes here, so you can expect a decent 6 minutes of really throwing it around, or 7 minutes of slightly less.
Check it out, natural light. That barely ever happens where I am. Well, this is a video in, I suppose you can split the batteries down to really two things. We had the 1300, the 1550 and the 1700. Very much your like 5-inch freestyle racing type quad. 1700 sounds a bit big. I thought it was a bit big, and it very much looks like it's as big as a quad and it's got a brick on it. But flying it, you saw the hover, 20% less than that. These are 2207 1950 kV motors. Absolutely handled it like a champ. So these three guys really liked flying them a 5-inch. The only thing I would say, and as you noticed it doesn't seem to want to go anywhere near 3.5. I've checked my voltages. I think they're showing right. They're not reading too high. So I don't think I'm dipping lower than I think I'm dipping. And fortunately when I got home and put these back on a charge to go to storage, they'd all recovered up into a decent rate. But yeah, be really careful, because as soon as I go past or below about 3.55 it starts tipping quick, so 3.55 becomes my landing point rather than 3.5 as I'd normally do on batteries. This very much was a case of, like, talk about broken quads, third rebuild on this one. I literally had, it turned out, I think, an ESC that was weirdly broken in some way that killed a flight controller, then killed another flight controller, and I had to replace everything to get that. This guy flew like an absolute dog. I haven't looked at these motors yet or what's going on with them. That's another job to do. And the cursed Chimera. What the hell? Every single flight I've had with this, I've had some problem. And it looks like this motor's let go. Again, I haven't investigated this one yet. I thought, let's get this video out and we'll worry about this stuff afterwards. But in terms of the big stuff, this is where we come into these large batteries. This 3300 went for 12.5 minutes. This is the 4000 light ion pack I'd normally fly with. Way similar. And this could go longer because I could take it down. But damn, that's an impressive amount of flying. And I didn't have to sort of hold back on the way I flew it because it's LiPo. I can pull as many amps as I want through it. So I was really looking forward to see what I could do with this 5600. And I would imagine it would be a decently long flight time and I'd be able to get the quad moving at a decent rate because I seem to be able to, like, throttle quite heavily on this and it was still on like 4 point something volts after 3 minutes. Again, although this is more weight, it didn't seem to be any sort of problem for my quad to lift it. So there you go. The Boss Lipo seems like a really quality make. You can put through some decent throttle. The batteries seem to recover. As I said, just don't go down below too fast because 6S, which I haven't flown with that much, seems to drop off so quickly when you reach a certain amount. But anyway, I hope that's been helpful. I'll be attempting to fly with these some more, especially this big guy, see if I can get the Chimera working again. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing. And if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.